Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Climb Podcast. My next guest is John Aime, also known as Fat Aime. He is a competitive Super Smash Bros. Player and a tournament organizer from Louisiana. I talk with him about the importance that Super Smash Bros. TOs have on the scene and how he plans to make an impact on Louisiana in the future. So, I guess just to start off with, like, how did you get started with Smash? Because I know, like, in Ultimate, and I think we've met each other in Smash 4. You were ranked in Smash 4, and then I think you're ranked 6th pre-pandemic.
Yeah. So I'll start with how I got into competing, and then I'll head into how I got into TOing. So how I got into competing is actually mad funny. So this game called Project M, it was a mod for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. My friend owned a Wii. This was right before Smash 4 came out. It was like late 2014. We were playing PM and like one of our electives classes in high school. They had a free day and he brought us Wii and we were playing PM and he's like, "Hey, the new Smash 4 game or Smash for Wii U comes out like next week or the week after." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, I don't have a job. I was only a junior in high school. I was in marching band, so I couldn't really like afford. So I saved up any bit of Christmas money I got and convinced my mom to go half seas with me because my birthday was in March. On a Wii U and a copy of Smash 4, and a GameCube controller, a GameCube adapter, and so I started off playing PM. Switched to Smash 4 about 4 months after the game came out, and for those of you who don't know, Smash 4 Diddy Kong pre-patch was one of the best characters in Smash. Like in general, he was super broken. DK64 was probably my favorite game as a kid. So I played Diddy Kong. My entire school hated me because I played the top tier broken character. And then I was basically became the best in my school. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, you're kind of gotten good at this game. You should go to this tournament I found on Facebook." And this tournament was Lust 8, which funny thing about Lust, which I'll explain later. It was the 8th Lust in January 2016. I went 2-2. I got 25th out of like 59, I believe. And then I was actually failing biology, so I had to take like a 6-month break because my mom was like, "You aren't going to tournaments or playing video games until you get that grade up in biology, because you have to graduate high school." So I took 6-month break, came back in June 2016, and I didn't have a car at this point, so I was literally only able to go to Lust because they were the ones close to my house. So I went to Lust for about a year, got my car in July 2017, and at that point, that was when I started taking Smash more seriously. I was going to anywhere from 4 to 5 tournaments a week. I would go to the Slido weeklies on Tuesday, the New Orleans weeklies on Wednesday, the BR weeklies on Friday, and then a monthly on Saturday. And that was like every single week for probably about 6 months. And at this point, I went from an 0-2er to a PR player. I got my first PR ranking at 9th in the state. And the January through April season of 2018. And then after that, the last month, Smash Ultimate actually got announced. And that kind of killed my motivation for it because it was like, this is going to be a whole new game. Bayonetta, who is who I mained in Smash 4, is going to get gutted because she's broken. So I just kind of stopped practicing. Went to events, talked to friends, and I actually still kept the same PR spot. I was ranked 9th again the next season, but that was with a lot of like the people who were ranked above me the prior season also quitting the game. So like, if they were to attend, I wouldn't have been ranked again. And then Ultimate came out. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. By the way, I kind of just tend to ramble.
Oh no, it's fine. This is all about you. It's all about you.
Ultimate came out, and so I guess to put back into perspective, before Ultimate came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, Bayo carries players. Like, we're gonna see how actually good Bayo players are. Once Ultimate comes out, they're not gonna be carried anymore." And I went into Ultimate like, yeah, like I'm gonna show them wrong. I'm not carried. I'm actually good at Smash. Yeah. About that, I definitely went 0-2 for like the first 3 months of Ultimate. At best, I would go like 2-2. Because I had major bracket nerves. I couldn't really find a character I actually vibed with in Ultimate for a long time. And so just like I had to learn this. I played Bayo before, and now I'm Ike while I wait for Joker to release because Joker was the DLC I wanted. And basically, like my results started getting better over time. I was still traveling out of state, which I'll touch up on that right now. My first out of state major for Ultimate was Genesis 6. This was at the time where like my fundamentals were still able to carry me through bracket sets before people started actually getting good at Ultimate. I made it on my Wave 1 pools. I lost in winter semis on my Wave 1 pool and made it out to loser side. And then I ended up getting 257th out of 2,100 and something, I believe. I don't know the exact numbers because it was so long ago. And then for the next I believe the next 4 majors, I all drowned in pools, going no higher than 2-2. It was kind of rough. But I kept grinding out locals. I went to every weekly I could. I basically did how I did in Smash 4. I was going to any local I could, staying after, playing friendlies, trying to get any experience I can because the new game was not really treating me that well. And then Joker came out in April, and I didn't really like him that much, which was kind of disappointing because I'm a huge Persona fan. So I was super excited. But he wasn't my character, so I ended up going back to Ike. And fast forward a few months, and it's June Lust. This is where I'm going to start talking about how I got into TOing. June Lust happens, and so I guess I'll explain. I mentioned earlier that how Lust 8 was my first Smash tournament ever to compete in. Lust is now the series that I TO for. So basically what happened was June Lust happens, and 13 people show up because no one could agree on who wanted to TO the Baton Rouge tournaments anymore, since our old TO had graduated college and moved away. And that was like that for a few months. And what happened was I was like, okay, well, since no one else wants to do it, I'll do it myself. And that was kind of the start of the revival of the LSU Smash tournaments, or what Lust stands for. So my first tournament that I TO'd, I believe, got 60 people, which at the time was bigger than what New Orleans monthlies were getting. They were getting around 30 to 40 people, and most of my tournaments were getting 60, which granted, Baton Rouge is like in the max center of Louisiana. So like, for perspective, Louisiana's biggest regions are New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. Baton Rouge is in between both New Orleans and Lafayette, so it's only an hour drive between the two. So I was able to get increased numbers, and that was kind of how I got into TOing. And then fast forward a few months, a few big tournaments from Lust, I decided to host Aime's birthday bash, which was basically going to be like $400 pop bonus. I was able to convince LSU to book me this ballroom for free. And it was probably the biggest venue that Louisiana had seen yet. And it was scheduled for March 21st, 2020, the day after my birthday. So if you're familiar with what's been going on, March 21st, 2020 was the week after the pandemic and everything started. So I actually had to cancel that tournament. And I remember I was on the car ride to CEO Dreamland, the last event before everything shut down. And I'm getting text from like Louisiana or LSU's like esports head of esports. He's texting me. A boss or asterisk is also texting me. We're DMing each other like, "Hey, what should we do?" And then probably about 5 minutes after I make the call to go ahead and cancel the tournament, we get the governor's notice that everything is shutting down starting like immediately. So we had to cancel the tournament. Um, and now, fast forward a few months, we're here. Online tournaments are still the wave. It doesn't look like they're going to be disappearing anytime soon. And yeah, that's basically where we're at.
It's pretty interesting. So as you have more people in your community, right?
Mhm.
There's kind of a need for a specialization, right? So you obviously have in Smash the most obvious thing, or besides players, would be your commentators or your organizers, and then some cases like our friend John would be for journalists, right?
Mhm.
And in a way, it's self fulfilling. Where if you have more people engaged in the scene, and that would lead to a higher interest into those roles, and that's why I think Smash scenes that do well with this, right? So you look at different areas. I always look towards Texas, but I mean Florida, California, the Northeast, right?
Yeah,
Um,
like SoCal,
you have
Tri-State. Yeah.
you have like all these people there, and if you don't see yourself as a role as a player anymore, which I kind of saw myself as heading towards like the end of my career, I guess. Um, Putting yourself into that different leadership position is important. There is obviously there's a huge importance for tournament organizers, right? Because you're a figurehead of the community, and you literally drive the most important factor of competitive Smash, which is your events, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, kind of talk about like the amount of preparation you have to do to make sure an event is successful. Because like with LSU Smashing, like historically in Baton Rouge, or some of the largest tournaments in I guess in Louisiana Smash, right?
Yeah.
Where you consistently get like whenever it's at its peak, you're consistently getting in between from 60 to 70. I've seen some tournaments get like 90 people. I remember one where we had like no AC and we had like
Oh my god,
60
I
something
know
people.
exactly what tournament that was. That was I want to say it was the June Lust in 2017, and we had 95 people, and LSU forgot to turn the air conditioning on in the middle of summer when we were averaging like 100-degree Fahrenheit days, bro. That was miserable. I remember I called my mom and was like, in between doubles and singles, I had her take me home so I could shower in between because like everyone smelled so bad. It was just miserable to be in, and but anyway, back on how I prepare for events. So generally, because I am not an actual student of LSU, I have to look through the esports club. I talk to them. I talk to the head of the esports club, who used to be Magi Howard, and then there was Magi, and they both don't really deal with that anymore. So I'd message them, be like, "Hey, this is how many people I'm expecting for this event. I need that." A lot of times, I would tell them like exactly what room I wanted for the, or I would be like, "Here's how many people I'm expecting. Give me a room that fits this size. Just let me know ahead of time, so I can start advertising." And then we get the room. I would contact my friend Ron over at Omni 20 in New Orleans. I'd call him or text him on Facebook Messenger, be like, "Hey, I need a streamer. Are you willing to drive? Are you off this day? And are you willing to drive out here and set up and stream for us?" And a lot of times, Ron was pretty cool. Ron's one of those people who just has a love for the scene, so he'd be like, 2 hours, no problem, I'll be there. Just tell me what time. And as well as for TOs, it was like depending on where it was, whether it was at Rockets, which was kind of our like backup venue, or LSU. It would be like a boss, or Asterisk, Kid Vassar, Leo Eris, Aiden, and then like some other regional TOs like Polka Dots helped me before, Sea Falcons helped me before. And that's kind of like the beauty of the Smashing, is that like if I ask someone for help, a lot of the times they're more than willing to say yes and help you, with no strings attached, which is like so crucial to making these events happen. And I honestly like a lot of my success as the tournament organizer has been because of the help of others. And tournament organizers rely on players to make their tournament run. You know, there's a player tournament, but also if there's no tournament organizer, players don't have a place to compete. So it's kind of nice how like it's just a community effort on like basically everything that goes into making a tournament. Um, and yeah, that's kind of like my thought process going into a tournament, what I have to do to make the tournament work. And then there's ways of advertising like Facebook, Twitter, uh, just social media in general is like such a huge like presence for advertising that like if you were to just cut out advertising on social media alone, tournaments would probably be nowhere near as big as they are at the moment. So
Right.
yeah, that's it.
Right. So I've also seen that like there's also mini tournaments that lead up to like a bigger tournament, right?
hmm
Like some of the salsas. So salsa, I forgot what the acronym stands for at this point, but it's just like the lower weeklies where you have these Arcadians, where you have, I guess, lesser ranked players go up against each other to get more experience, because in competitive games, once you get past like the initial starting points and you kind of figure out like what this meta is in a sense, that there's going to be players that stand out. You'll have X amount of people at the top, and then you have everyone else underneath. And then at that point, if you see yourself like, whenever you like somebody that enters a tournament that's not super competitive, they say like, okay, what's in it for me, right? And typically with these tournaments, the main driving value would just be to just play the game, right? To be able to play. And then you have other, like for bigger tournaments, you obviously have other entertainment factors that go into it. So talk about how important is, I guess, or different methods to be able to build up like a community from that, because whenever you have like a tournament of 95 people, right, that are in the scorching heat
Yeah,
of
scorching hot.
heat of Baton Rouge, Louisiana summers, what do you do to try to retain people to come back to the scene?
So this is actually probably one of the biggest challenges I've had to face as a TO till this point. Me and my like TO team that we have in Baton Rouge constantly trying to talk and think of new ways to retain, because like our goal was to get newcomers first, right? But then we have to retain those newcomers because that's how the scene grows, and that's where we kind of figure out this disconnect. Things we've tried that's worked in the past is amateur brackets. Amateur bracket being like if you don't place, let's say, top 16 out of this 80-person tournament, you're entered into a secondary bracket, in which case you're allowed to play more bracket sets and get more experience. We've had success with those. We've had success with, I believe you mentioned Arcadians, which Arcadians means like no ranked players are allowed to enter. This is kind of like who's the best up and comers type of deal, where people really get to prove their stuff. Which is like if you're an up and comer, it's like your first or second, you really want to prove where you're at among like the people to be like the next wave influential players in the scene. This is your chance to show your stuff. We also have, like I said, weeklies. We have weeklies all over the region on multiple days of the week, you know. Another thing we've done is like silly things. We've done strike. Melee, the melee community definitely does this better than the ultimate community, I will say. They'll do like Pokemon trainer brackets where like they'll have one person playing on the controller and they'll have someone standing behind them screaming what the person has to do as they input it, and it's just a really fun experience. I've watched before, and as a TO, I hate it because they're screaming on the other side of the venue. But as a competitor and like just a scene member, it's super funny to watch. Just stuff that like makes a positive impact on a experience that makes them want to come back. So like, we've done squad strike brackets. We've done doubles before. We've done people one controller. Anything that can just like be like, man, that was fun. I can't wait to. And that's and that's what I'm still trying to figure out and what's the next step. So
Yeah. When you look at like at these different regions, as I mentioned before, there's an inherent challenge. There's a built-in challenge because of the approximate distance between your different scenes, right? for somebody from Lafayette to get to New Orleans, it's about 2.5 hours,
Hmm.
give or take traffic. And then from obviously Baton Rouge is central, and then for everyone else in the scene, you're looking at excess of I guess a couple of hours just to get to these main
Yeah.
spots. So it in a dense city like New Orleans, it makes sense. Um, I guess why you would have like a larger scene, or the potential of having a larger scene and different areas where you can compete. And the same thing with Baton Rouge because you have LSU.
Yeah.
Like at LSU at the beginning is always popping off, um, and
uh,
so I guess how I mentioned earlier how that could be self fulfilling in a positive way, right? To where once you engage your community, you can easily build upon it because you have more people, and the more people that work into it, the bigger the scene will grow. Just because you just have more people just putting in that effort, but then you have it the complete and opposite way because of the way that we are geographically and population wise, to where your scene could just completely fade away, especially as like your game ages. Um, so
yeah.
so it's kind of double edged in a way. Like you always have to be on top of it. Whenever you're a TO, it kind of gets stressful, right? Because you always want to say like, okay, you always want things to progress. I think all of us want to see like some sort of progression, right? To where you have like if you have one tournament that's like 70 people, right? You're like, oh man, that's pretty good, and then the next one's 95, for example, and then the one after that is like 60, and you're like, what happened here? What happened to almost a
Yeah.
third of our player base? And it's it kind of gets to you mentally, right? Whenever you put in like a lot of effort, and so based off of factors that don't really like have to do anything with you, right? It's
So
kind of hard to keep that mentality up.
I personally, just because I've been in the scene so long as a player, I personally never let it get to me, if that makes sense, because I understood there was a lot of times to where I'd have work on the weekend, or I'd be like, oh, I'm busy that weekend, I can't go to that tournament. So I understand that like life affects like some like life in a person, everyone to can't come to my tournament, right? You know, that's the perfect world. I understand that a perfect world does not exist. But there's definitely been times to where I've been like, I've set a player goal for this tournament. You know, I've done all the advertising and we've fallen short, and that's where I've gotten disheartened because I know like even if like excusing the perfect like there's no perfect world thing, I know like man like we can get these numbers. I want to see the scene grow. And you mentioned how distance and other factors play a role into that. And it's like that's kind of another thing I wanted to tackle as a TO is how do I make my tournaments worth it for the people from Lake Charles who have to drive 3 hours to my tournament? How do I make it worth it for the people from North Louisiana who have to rent a hotel room because they can't drive 5 hours each direction for a tournament? How do I make it worth it for them? And that's where I'm trying. That's where the numbers comes into play, right? Because let's be real. If you're from North Louisiana, would you rather drive down for a 15-person tournament or a 65-person tournament? You're gonna get more with the 65-person tournament because there's more around the pocket. You see more friends and people. You get to socialize more. It's just an overall more fun experience. And it's not to knock on regions who have those 15-person tournaments because BR weeklies and a lot of Lafayette weeklies and a lot of New Orleans weeklies will have sometimes have weeklies that just don't reach those like 20, 30 numbers and you have 15. And not saying that those aren't fun, but we as a community have to figure out how like to together and make it worth it for regions that aren't so close by like Lafayette and New Orleans to make it worth traveling to. And that was actually something that I kind of was able to accomplish with Amy's birthday bash. I what I did was I launched the Smash EG page like 4 weeks early, and then I immediately went to Twitter and was like, "Here's the pop bonus. Here's what we're doing. everyone retweet this, try and get word out as much as possible. I was posting on Facebook like maybe once a day, once every other day, like just constantly like blowing up people's inboxes on every single Smash Facebook group we have. And what it did was people were pre-registering for my tournament. So it showed those people that were coming in Texas, that were coming from North Louisiana and Ruston, that were coming from Mississippi. I had some people coming from Alabama. That's far. Coming from my tournament because it shows that, oh, well, this tournament has 90 something people pre registered and this much money is being added into the pot. I want to go there because I know it'll be worth the experience or worth the drive, and the experience will be worth it, if that makes sense. And that's where I definitely think is like what I will be looking into is upping my advertisement game and upping my preparation in turns to get those numbers that I want to see. I think that's the next step I want to take. So, yeah, I kind of railed off from your original question, but you know what? That's I warned you ahead of time.
I was actually gonna go into like trying to attract like out of towners or out of staters, right? Because like whenever I went to the first ultimatum at Esports Stadium Arlington, I talked with a couple of Dallas guys and I said like, what would take for you guys to come out to go to a different state? And they said like outside of majors, right? Outside of super majors, like say a Super Smash Con or a Genesis. There's no or Frostbite. There's no reason for them to travel because they have like absurdly large events. They have a weekly, daily. They have dailies. So it's really interesting just to analyze like the different aspects of what makes a scene, right? And how do you get better and how do you progress? And like obviously like building up your competitive scene is one way to do it, having good players. Say Louisiana 10 years ago, we're in 2021, so in 2011 I was ranked 8th, right? I was ranked 8th in the Stadium Brawl, and you know there wasn't really like that big of an outreach from Louisiana. We'd have like these small events. I think I had RJ on the podcast, and we just didn't have the numbers, and now we do. Within the past 3 years, within the past like 5 years, right? Like everything that's building up pre-pandemic and leading up to your tournament was a culmination of the progress the scene has made and the willingness and the accessibility for people to come out and play. So it's really interesting. Like whenever you look at Louisiana and you look at majors, the only ones that come to mind for Smash would be MLG in 2014. I think it was 2014, 2015. That was one where
2015, because I was playing. I was actively playing Smash 4 at that point. I wasn't competing yet.
Yeah, so it was 2015. That was like one of my last majors that I guess I attended as like a full-time competitor. And then the not Smash related, but like a Tekken World Finals, Tekken World Tour Finals were supposed to be in New Orleans in last December, and that's obviously canceled. But
yeah,
the main question is for Louisiana, what will it take to attract people to come here on like a grassroots level, and then obviously from grassroots level it can build upon that.
So obviously, like one of Louisiana's biggest problems, being like the distance from each other. Another thing is like we don't, because we're so grassroots. Like we've started small. While we're bigger now, we're still small compared to those full-fledged scenes like Dallas, SoCal, Florida. You know, that get those 200 people are in tournament cities, right? We don't have that kind of manpower. So the way to build out is honestly like, say, word of mouth is like, I know that there's way more people that play and that comes to these tournaments. There's no way, right? Like just think about when you were in high school, at least for me, I would play with anywhere from 10 to 12 people, like regularly in high school, and I was the only one who went to tournaments. So imagine if we were able to get even half of those people into like, so let's say we were able to get 3 of those 12 from a high school to come to these tournaments. That would make such a drastic increase alone. And that's what I actually want to touch on that Charles was doing really, really well. Is that I believe before, and obviously they can't do it because of regulations, they had this like high school Smash Esports Team League or something like that. And a lot of the people that I'm seeing in the scene now from Lake Charles are actually that um, from that program. Like we have Aster, I believe Aster. Sorry, Lake Charles. I don't remember a lot of these y'all's names. You are so far away. Aster, Flarester, um, Burb. Like those are up and comers, right? Those are the kids who are going to support the scene because, like, let's be real. I'm 22. I'm about to turn 23. I'm going to be getting old soon to the point where I can't do this. So then, what happens whenever we retire, right? Because like there has to be a scene that we have to pass down to. Those are our up and coming generation. So I think that will be a huge factor. Is doing something more for our youth, doing youth brackets might be something we want to pursue in the foreseeable future. Obviously, that's going to be difficult given the current environment. COVID probably won't allow us to ease up on restrictions until late 2021, early 2022. But that's one thing I, as a TO, want to hit the ground running on is figure out how to make our next wave of younger players um, feel welcome at events, feel comfortable at events, because a lot of our scene members are now graduating college or getting close to graduating college. Sai, who started playing when he was like 16, 17, and I think is about to enter his last year of college or is in his last year of college. I can't really remember. And that's just crazy to think about. So we have to start making preparations to attract younger members into the scene because they are the lifeblood. Same thing with like, I hate to say it like this, but O and 2ers. O and 2ers are the lifeblood of a scene, not the top players. So like you have to figure out ways to make O and 2ers feel welcome at events and enjoy themselves. Because no one likes losing, right? No one likes being like, yeah, I got last place at a tournament. So you have to figure out a way to make it fun for them because they're the ones who make your events big, not the top players. At least in my opinion. As far as attraction from other areas, you can't really do that without numbers and money, at least from personal experience. Advertisement helps, but advertisement goes to getting those numbers. So like it kind of, the bigger your team, the more likely people are to come to your events, and that's just kind of how it works, at least in my personal experience, and from like going to other events as well as being a TO. So yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy to see. I guess this is kind of the accessibility point I was bringing up because you see like all these players, like how esports is becoming more mainstream. I think that's like a big like social influence that's helping out, like all across the board. So in Lake Charles, you mentioned they have Scion Esports.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Which
Sorry, I couldn't remember.
And so the two brothers that are in charge of it, I think they have like a paid Overwatch team that had done like historically well in is it contenders or open division, one of the two, I can't remember, for Overwatch. And then they do stuff with the high school leagues because I believe they're on the board for the Lake Charles school board. So like that alone is a great help to try to like build up, right? And so whenever you talk about like a community and stressing like these are the skills that you can build up, right? And so I guess in the part that I'm editing out, when we were talking at the beginning, it's mainly like how do you show that you've done like this work to get like a specific job that you want, right? And so there's so many different avenues that you can go down now in Smash. Like you have a pure like analytics of with the PG stats, which they still need to accept me for my beta access, so I can go do some digging into it and see what they're up to. Um, you have like obviously the TO front, you have like the commentator front, you have so many different YouTube personalities from Smash alone, um, and Twitch as well. And
Yeah,
so
content creation is a huge factor, at least nowadays.
once you see like the paths that you can go down to, I think that kind of opens up the different possibilities. I think like down the road, Louisiana will be pretty good. I think we're in good hands right now, and it's building towards like something bigger. It just was how do you break that past glass ceiling? But I think that's a question for the community to answer that, right?
Yeah, that
I think we could talk about that for like 3 hours in
yeah,
a
right.
way.
Like I said, it's the thing I love about the fact that Louisiana is such a grassroots like scene compared to like one of the more established esports scenes like Dallas, Tri-State. That everything feels like a community effort. None of my tournaments like we have carpools, we have carpool drivers because people will be like, hey, I know like a lot of our like I said, we're all growing up, but a lot of us are in college still. A lot of us we still live an hour and away. So just offering those carpools to be like, hey, I have 3 spots on my carpool, y'all want in, helps raise our numbers so much, and like just everything down just to even having attendees, just such a community effort. It's really nice to see and rewarding as a TO. Being like looking at an event, seeing, oh, I have six. Like I know I keep talking about numbers, but at least to me, every single person that comes to my event is a person. They are not a number to me. So just knowing that I could gather 60 individual people and personalities and everybody in an event to celebrate a game I love like Smash Brothers is just super like heartwarming to me. I remember my first big tournament was at, I want to say it was the August Lust. It was like right when school started back, so it was popping. Had like 70 something people. Had people from North Louisiana, people from Lake Charles. I had, of course, a ton of people from Lafayette, New Orleans, people from Ridge, people from Hammond, Slidell, everywhere from over the state. People I hadn't seen in years. You know, like Fat Sloth, who I think was my round one opponent at my first tournament. Uh, had seen him in years. Showed up to one of my tournaments. You know, just like seeing all these people like make the effort, and that's like effort reaps rewards, if that makes sense. Like if you're putting in effort, we'll all benefit from it eventually. It may not be immediately, but eventually you'll look down and be like, okay, this is because we had all these people from different regions. This is because I advertised. This is because they heard they was tuned into a stream commentary and it sounded like it'd be fun to go to, so they come to the next one. That kind of stuff. That's what will, I believe, grow our scene. And like I said, like you said, I think we're in good hands. We can obviously only go up from here. Just gotta keep riding the wave, I guess we have. So yeah, I feel like I didn't answer your question at all, but you know what? That's the answer I'm giving. So